revolution now, the protest, civic space in Nigeria and how it's shrinking, the media space as well, and there's a planned protest for the 1st of October. I want to have a sense of what's going on, why the protest, and how it's being put together. And more importantly, I'd like you guys to send in your questions, your concerns, and contribution, because I like it to be an interactive live. Please send in your questions. I'll probably just check if my guest is on now. Okay, it's not here yet. Do not forget to send in your questions. I like to have all your questions. Yes, my guest is here. Yeah, I'm excited. Mr. Sowore on the internet. It wasn't the internet actually. I think it was part of my phone. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying that the last time I had you, we had plenty drama, but today we're going to be good. So how are you doing?
Hopefully. I'm good. I'm here in Abuja.
I'll probably start
lockdown.
Sorry? What did you say? Can you hear me?
I said I'm here in Abuja in a lockdown.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'll probably start with a statement by Mr. Ayuba. Comrade Ayuba is of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Last week he said that the Nigerian Labour Congress is not certain about its position following the removal of fuel subsidy and the increase in electricity tariff. Do you think at a point like this in Nigeria, where people are dealing with economic crisis vis-a-vis COVID and the lockdown implication, the NLC should be on standby? The NLC should not be certain about what they want to do for Nigerians?
I'm shocked to hear that he said that, but I'm not surprised. I think over the last few years, the labor movement, the student movement, and several other organizations and movements in the country have gone down the drain in terms of their capacity to respond to oppression and poverty-inducing policies of the government. I think a lot of these labor movements are either embedded in government or have government embedded in them. So they've changed their focus and concerns, and so I'm never surprised to hear that they said that. We, as a matter of fact, try to reach out to them, and I know that Barrister Femi Falana was also trying to reach out to them. He's very close to the labor movement for months now, even before the government totally removed, increased the prices of gasoline and increased taxes and tariffs. I don't think they were cooperative up to now.
But don't you think, on the issue of subsidy, don't you think it's a matter of time that decision was had to be taken by the Nigerian government?
No, see, let's understand what we mean by subsidy. There is no subsidy at all. There was never subsidy. It is a subsidizing of the criminal elements who are rent seekers in the system. That's what subsidy means. You were there in 2012. After the massive protests in 2012, what was the biggest thing we found? That what they claimed was subsidy was people importing water, importing so-called gasoline or PMS, petrol as we call it, in vehicles that had sunk several years ago. So when people say subsidy, they're just lying to you. Nobody is subsidized. There's never a time fuel was being subsidized by Nigerian government. But there's a scam called subsidy. and the scam is still there. What they've done this time around is to prepare Dangote's refinery for, so that if it comes on stream, the man can make a lot of profit uh, as soon as his refinery starts to produce. And they've even said it that when his refinery starts to work, they're going to be the federal government that claims that they're not interested in the private sector is telling us in Nigeria today. This is the news item I saw today before I came on, that Dangote will be selling at the international rate. What is the business of government if how Dangote decides to sell his gasoline? But they are preparing the country for this rapacious profit gouging that is coming on board, and several other anti-people policies. The government of Buhari doesn't care about people, and it's not only applicable to the Buhari regime. Since 1960, governments have not cared about Nigerians, and it's the reason why I'm not one of the people who is really too keen on these issues. I'm more interested in overturning the system that continues to perpetrate these policies. You see, tomorrow, if there's public outcry, they can claim that they are returning subsidies to take care of themselves. What do? I mean, it's the continuation of a scam. Government in this country is a scam, big scam.
I like that you talked about public outcry. From your days at Unilag, you've been the white. Sorry. From your days at Unilag, you've been an activist. You've been a student union activist. You've been demanding. You've been asking. Part of the major selling point for Sahara is still that activism, which you founded. You've not stopped. But if you look at what's going on in our sorry.
Yes, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, if you look at what's going on in our generation at the moment, it feels like there's apathy. The people, like young people, are just disinterested. Government can just wake up tomorrow and say, all of you Nigerians, this is what we're going to do, without asking the people, without advocating or communicating the ideals or the policy direction. And that is what happens. And the next day, everybody follows suit. So in a way, it sort of feels like the government's actions are always, we're going to act in a particular way. What are they going to do about it? What would you say about the body language of the Nigerian people, especially young Nigerians?
So whatever it is that happened to young Nigerians, what you call apathy today, or the situation of complacency, had been planned over these years. There's been policies after policies that rendered their parents useless. Some of them, their grandfathers and their parents, and now they have been conditioned not to act. It is a programming of the mind, and this programming has been done particularly in the area of education. Look at what it did to the universities. In my days, from the days of Buhari in 1984, or even before that, since the days of Obasanjo, there was a massive protest called Ali Must Go in the 70s. And after that came, the eradication of any form of support for students, meal support, school fees. They imposed everything. But one other thing they did was to kill the student unions. Where they couldn't kill the student unions, they invented and supported cost gangs to replace them. So you don't have any student movement that is moving against policies of government. These are the same student leaders that fought for independence in their 20s. You go to campuses today, including my own alma mater, the University of Lagos, there's no student leadership in place. There's no student vibrant activism on campus. Before I was arrested last year, I think I was saying it, I was supposed to speak at the University of Lagos. The Vice Chancellor just called the student leaders and said, you can't bring Sowore to campus. It's not allowed. During my days, when I was a student leader, if you ask us not to bring somebody to campus, that's the same time we will go and bring two of the person. If you say don't bring Gani, we will bring Gani and add Falana and Beko on top. If you say don't bring Fela, He'll be the person who will open our student union student week. But student leaders of today, you go to the University of Lagos, they have even introduced uniforms in some of the faculties. They tell students how to dress. You have to dress a certain way. Nobody ever accepted that nonsense before now. But what I'm trying to say before I jumped into that little history is that all of these have been planned with policies. It's a policy progression of destruction of the spirit of activism on campuses. Yes, we also have to blame the young people of our country for it because they put them in a lockdown, but they accepted to stay down there in a lockdown, with their own particular kind of complacency, their particular kind of cowardice in some cases. Never seen young people so cowardly. In some cases, not all of them, and I think that is changing, but it's not changing as quickly as possible because we see that also in the way they react to social political issues on social media. There's a difference between how youths in Kenya, and I watch them a lot, react to social political issues. It's as if they're almost united, right? In Nigeria, you will see young people, they prefer to go and put their account numbers looking for giveaways than to take a position. Even when it is not dangerous, they are unwilling to take a position on issues that affects them directly. And of course, part of it is also distraction. There's social political distraction with soccer. We support teams that we don't know about in soccer. People kill
Yeah.
themselves on the streets of Lagos over Manchester United, Arsenal, and all kinds of things like that. And then you put that on top of BB Niger, which is completely paralyzing. It's like there's nothing left. So there's no way we can escapade ourselves, young people, from the blame. We can't say completely, oh, my father is responsible or my mother didn't fight for me. And then you now start hearing from them this unbelievable buzzword about, oh, Ojota 2012. People are asking Wole Soyinka, who is almost 90 years old,
to go back
to be
and
fighting
protest.
for them. And they are under 20 themselves. They are in their 20s. They have never done anything before. They'll be calling on Soyinka. They are calling on Femi Falana. And go and fight. It is time. They are looking at their watch. Go and fight again for us. Go and fight this battle for us. Forgetting that in another 2 years, they too will get so old, and those who are students will become, youths who are unemployed on the streets. They will have no political power because all of it has been cornered by the children of all these people. There will be no jobs for you if you are not the son or a daughter of an influential politician or your father is a governor. Now there will be no schools for you because they don't have to care about opening your schools because their children have already returned to London. That's the reason why they opened the airports recently. And so, but you're there deceiving yourself. Some of them also outrightly supporting, this, the rot in society. Some of them clapping for politicians. Some of them are excited about politicians. Some of them live their life off of pages of celebrities that don't care about you. So, like I said, it's a combination of a lot of factors. But at the end, every man or woman must carry his own cross. His own cross.
Let's talk a bit about, because I really wanted you to share this. I was interviewing Osai of Amnesty International a few days ago, and we're talking about the role of civil society and democracy. And there was no way I was going to interview you today and not talk about how apathy seems to be affecting almost everything that we're doing. Because for government to just wake up in the middle of a pandemic where people are trying to get jobs and increase the prices of electricity, it also shows that they understand the body language of the people. As a matter of fact, I feel like people, even where I am in Berlin, if the government sneezes, the next day there's a protest, And I keep asking, why are these guys protesting? Why are they protesting? So it sort of feels like they're waiting for every reason to go out and protest. And we do not have electricity, we do not have good roads, but everybody's just like, okay, I'll leave it to a few people. I also spoke to Deji Adeyanju, and Deji said, Mercy, we are waiting for people that are going to lead the protest for subsidy removal. And I asked him, why are you saying you're waiting? He said, oh, well, so that people don't say he's the one leading it. But how can, I'm going to go back to the Revolution Now protest, but I want to find out, what do you think we can do differently to sensitize young people and make them understand that Nigeria is the only country that we have, and if we all are not responsible enough to demand, to ask those that are in offices to account for their actions and inactions. If the country fails, it fails for the rest of us. Look at what the NSAS advocacy did and what the SARS guys have been doing across the street. University students, if you have dreadlocks, you are automatically tagged a criminal. If you're using a laptop, you're a Yahoo boy. You know, young people are daily, young people are being affected by the system. What can be done differently?
I think, we need a big jolt. And that big jolt is like an electric jolt to young people, something to wake them up all at once. And that was the reason why I personally doesn't do or hasn't done, the typical civil society kind of activism of, oh, let's go to a conference, let's have a long meeting in which people keep giving the same speeches that will be here since 1960. Is the reason I opted for a different kind of activism, which is to say, look, we reached a breaking point, we have to push back. And that was what Revolution Now was about. And that was the reason why some 20 years after I left Nigeria, I went back last July and I was detained for 5 months. Became the first in a long time political prisoner in Nigeria. I don't think there's been any political prisoner in Nigeria since a prisoner of conscience as declared by Amnesty since 1999. So, but I sometimes can't understand why young people are so desensitized. That because I don't think we need to sensitize anybody, because all the factors that can sensitize people are all around us. In the course of giving this conversation, doing this interview with you, if I were not on a generator, my electrical company would take off light maybe 2 or 3 times before the end of the interview, right? That should sensitize me to light.
Right.
If you are passing by a policeman and he picks you up because you're wearing a dreadlock and you're wearing a chain, he beats you up for no reason, that should sensitize you to your human rights, right? If you graduate from school and you can't find a job, that should sensitize you to unemployment. Because all these things have consequences, like direct consequences on your well-being. So the other part we can do is, of course, to keep telling people what is wrong. But I also feel like there's some information overload on young people, because there's nowhere you turn to that there's no information about what is wrong with the country. You go to Twitter, there's no way you read 5 or 10 that you don't get enough information to sensitize you. Or you go to Facebook or you go to Instagram, there's information everywhere around you. So I think the problem is that people are desensitized. There's a sense of numbness, that people have become numb to suffering. They become numb to, things that can improve their lives. And it's because, as I said earlier, all these things have been planned as part of policy to just make people become numb. And where they are not numb, they impose fear on them. Where they are not afraid, they create divisions. Then suddenly somebody will say, oh, I'm Hausa, I'm Yoruba. And where there are no ethnic divisions, they bring religion into it. And religion actually desensitizes people a lot, because you can imagine walking into a church on Sunday and there are 50,000 people there and they're all suffering. But the pastor rises and says, hey, don't worry about your suffering on earth. There's a place for you at my Father's place upstairs. You start pointing into the sky and everybody goes back home. But these are the same 50,000 people you need. So I've become so upset to get on the streets and fight for their own right, which can be achieved in one day instead of eternity that they are waiting for. So we have all of these things imposed, all set up in society to just make people not wake up. So a lot of people are asleep, and a lot of people pass from sleep to death. It's the reason why I tell people when they say, people always send me stuff, oh, be careful, and be careful. I was like, look, you that is not careful, are you alive? Is this life that we are living? Is this life? This is not life. Except because the majority of us have never seen the other part of the world. So many of us have never been to Ghana to even know how great things are going on in Ghana compared to us. Talk less of someone like you who is in Berlin, or someone who's in Frankfurt, or someone who's been in the UK and in the US, and you see how things work. Then you can understand why there's no life here. This is lifelessness. But a lot of people don't understand that. But again, we must not give up, because one event will do the magic, and it will take a few people to move a lot of us to that position or point of no turning back, or point of no return, that puts an end to this nonsense in Nigeria.
But the Nigerian government keeps saying that the name of the protest, the name tag of your protest is problematic. It's problematic because you keep calling it revolution now. And I'm sure I've seen a lot of press statements ascribing to the fact that it's an attempt to overthrow the government. Are you concerned?
No, I'm not concerned. If I was concerned, I won't be on the show with you. If I was concerned after my detention, I would have disappeared. Or go and apologize as they wanted me to do when I was in detention. No. If we are saying anything at this point that they agree and accept, then we are not making sense. It has to be something they disagree with. It's the only way we can bring about a total overhaul of the system. Our presence, our words, our actions must be a threat to them. It is only then that what we are doing will be making sense. So they can, if they agree with us, then that means what we are doing is nonsense or nonsensical. So whatever they like, let them call it. I've seen press releases. They've said all kinds of things about me. They've taken me to court. They've jailed me. They've blocked all my bank accounts. They've tried to cripple Sahara reporters because they said I'm using the word revolution now. But guess what? Even if I'd use the word celebration now, it still won't make a difference, because what they are doing is wrong, and they know that I'm fighting against what is wrong. So it's not the nomenclature that is their biggest problem. It is the fact that they know that they have run out of time, or they are running out of time, and they know that they are being challenged in a way that has never happened before. That is what is. Even if we didn't have a name for our movement, they will still be running crazy. They'll be going crazy. They'll be losing their minds. And I'm glad they are.
What's happening on the 1st of October?
Major action. Hopefully, all of you that are watching and listening will participate in the global action against tyranny, oppression, and corruption. I think this system has overrun its term. It has overshot its runway, and it needs to just be allowed to go down. So October 1st is supposedly Nigeria's Independence Day, right? And that's also symbolic because it's 60th anniversary of Nigeria's independence.
Right.
And people are just saying, look, we're tired of the Nigeria of their own dream. The Nigeria of their dream is our nightmare. So we want to challenge them to the point that we want to win for ourselves a new independence. Brand new.
But what would you say to people who would argue with you and say there is currently a democratically quote unquote elected government in place? Shouldn't you wait until another election year and revolt using the ballots?
You see, the term democratically elected government presupposes that the guys who are in position of authority today actually won the election, in considering that they won the election. Let's assume without considering that they won this election, right? It is a contractual agreement. They have a contract with the people. And the moment you cannot fulfill your own part of the contractual agreement with the people, an election is a contractual agreement with the people. And if you are in doubt, go and find out what happened in Mali. The president of Mali had 2 more years to go. He was supposedly democratically elected too. But the people of Mali, in the middle of the whole shebang, said they are tired of him. Buhari went there to go and appeal to them. They didn't listen. Jonathan was sent there in a private jet. They didn't listen to them because they know they are jokers. And now, Mali, of course, made a fundamental mistake, which they should never have made, allowing military to take over from their revolution. That was a fundamental mistake. But what we are saying is that the tenure of any government is not cast in gold as long as the government does not fulfill its own terms, its own obligations to the people. So it's the people that determines the tenure of any government in power. It's the people. It's people's power. It is not the Electoral Commission. It's not the paper that was given on the day you claim to have won the election. It is not the Bible or the Quran that you were sworn in, or the Chief Judge or Chief Justice of the Federation. It is the people. You understand? This is the part that they find difficult to understand. That your tenure is tied to the satisfaction of the people, not, any contractual. Not any fixed tenure. If you want to finish your tenure, do right by the people. Nobody can change that. If you don't do right by the people can come out and fire you the same way they hired you. But I've not met in Nigeria today 95% of Nigerians, I'm sure, share the same opinion as I have, or as I do, that this government is useless. The government is no longer has derailed. The government does not represent the aspirations and the progress and prosperity of the people. And the people have a right to challenge the government the way they want.
I'm sure certainly there will be, because over the last few years, if there's anything that we've noticed across the country is a gradual, I wouldn't even call it gradual, rather the shrinking of civic space. Not just the civic space, the media space is also shrinking.
Everything is shrinking.
Sorry?
I said everything is shrinking, including Nigeria itself. The geopolitical size of Nigeria is shrinking as well. Because you're from, I think you're from Cross Rivers, right?
Yes.
Yes. Bakassi has been taken away from Nigeria, so everything is shrinking.
Aren't you? Because one of the things...
Boko Haram has taken a great portion of Borno State. So Nigeria has shrunk significantly. But go ahead.
And there's
question.
There's also desert encroachment. Talking about the climate change aspect of it.
Yeah, desert encroachment, flooding, all kinds of things. We can keep counting. The naira has shrunk, the economy has shrunk. The only people that are not shrinking are the people in government. Buhari is looking fresher. His children, his wife, his ministers.
Aren't you concerned that 1st October there was going to be widespread crackdown?
No, I'm not concerned. We expect that. We have set crackdowns before October and during the October protest, but that is not important. What is important is that people will rise. It's a global movement. It's a global action that will take place. It will be taking place in Berlin, where you are as well. I hope you join. It's taking place in Frankfurt, it's taking place in London, it's taking place in New York and Washington, D.C. It's taking place in South Africa. As far as I know, Australia. It's taking place all over the world, and it's taking place across Nigeria. So how many people can you clamp down upon? You know, it's just, it's stupidity of the highest order. But the important thing is also understand that the people who will do the clamping down or cracking down too, they are directly affected by the situation. I've not seen a market that is specially made for the police or army and all these security agencies that they use to crack down on the people. They shop in the same market. They go to the same hospitals. They send their children to the same schools. But I'm not appealing to them. I'm not sentimental about it. Some of them are senseless, and you just have to let them stew in their senselessness. And some of them will ultimately, in the future, pay for some of the crimes that they are committing against innocent civilians today, innocent nationals. So I'm not here to appeal to them. It's none of my business. What is my business is to ensure that everybody is mobilized to the barricades on October 1st, intact, and they return intact as well. Until, or we don't return we occupy until we are free.
I'm going to come back to that. We occupy until we are free. Without the involvement of the TUC, the Trade Union Congress, the Nigerian Labour Congress, the organized labor, as it were, how do you think this protest will succeed?
You see, I was a student leader in the 90s, early 90s. And most people don't know to today that it wasn't labor that started the resistance against the Babangida regime. It was young people, students, that mostly did the work. In fact, after the election of Abiola was annulled, labor was not willing to join the struggle until it became an embarrassment. They were practically just blackmailed into it. And after a while, the labor movement joined the government. The only person that was in the labor movement was NUPENG chairman then, Frank Kokori, who was sent to prison. The rest of the labor people, including Oshiomhole that everybody is shouting about today, they went and hobnobbed with Abacha. So labor. And sometimes they join themselves.
Hello, can you hear me?
This is mostly not for labor to start. It's for everybody to be involved. Occupy wasn't only a labor affair. Ojota didn't have many labor union leaders. It was regular people like you and I. And those of us abroad at that time that carried out the Occupy Nigeria action globally. So, yes, it would be great if labor could join, but I doubt that we have a labor movement at this time that can carry out the duties that we're asking of them at this point. I don't think they have the capacity and the morality to do it.
I wanted to follow up on your last comment about the stay and the time of the validity of the protest for that day. You said the protest is going to go on until. So is it going to last for 3 days? Is it going to last for the day, or we're expecting a kind of Arab Spring, as it were, where people just sat down and say, you know what, if you don't give us our demands. Now, if we're going to talk about demands, what are the demands for the day, for instance?
We have a website that says all the demand. It's revolutionnow.ng. That's a website set up, and the demands are there. And it has to do about the welfare of the people. But we're also demanding for the resignation of the government, because they have failed us completely. They have failed every generation that is alive on Nigerian soil, even outside of Nigeria today. We have demands that are related to the scrapping of the Senate. We had demands that says we need a brand new constitution for the country that will be created by the people and that will go through the proper channel of constitution making, which is a referendum, so that they will have the imprimatur of the people. We have demands on minimum wage. We have demands on the kind of health sector we want. We have demands on the level of funding of education that we want. We have all kinds of demands. They're all there on the website, revolutionnow.ng. So you can check it out. But I've told you some of them.
Yeah, but if you're asking for the resignation of the current government and its ministers, what are we going to be having in place? Because I know you raised concerns with the Malian approach and how the military took over. In Nigeria, for instance, we currently have an elected government that is in place, and if you're asking them to resign, what's the alternative? Because there must be a government.
The alternative is
at every point.
The alternative is a government of national unity. And the job of that government is to go directly to set up a constitutional conference that will fashion out the new constitution for the people, and then elections will follow. It happened in Sudan, so it's nothing new. It's nothing new at all.
Okay, I'll probably take you back again. So you're open to having an election, correct?
No, after a brand new constitution for the country, where everybody will sit down and determine the content of the constitution, then of course we are not going for anything less than democracy. What we are saying is that what we have now is not democracy. It doesn't fulfill the conditions that are necessary for a democratic regime. It's not democracy when people cannot speak, when they try to gag the internet. It's not democracy when elections cannot be free and fair. It's not democracy. It's not democracy when you use police and army to go and disrupt and beat up people during election or beat up protesters. That's not democracy. You know what democracy is. This is not government of the people. This is not government by the people. This is a government by cabal and morons. That's what I'm telling you. If you tell me this is democracy, then we have to start looking for the real meaning of democracy.
There is currently a constitutional review process opened by the leadership of the National Assembly.
Listen, the constitutional review system has been happening since I was born. It's all rubbish. That was how Kwerimadu became a millionaire. Constitutional review process in place. But a constitutional review is not the same thing as constitutional making. Right? You can review, there's no amount of review that can happen to the current constitution. It cannot meet the standard required of a popular constitution. It can't. The review is going to be done by the same senators and lawmakers who don't care about the people, who were not even validly elected. A lot of them didn't win election. The former governors who use their position to rig election, they don't represent you. They don't know how to make laws because it's not about them. They can only make laws that protect their own personal interest. Do you understand what I mean? So, but it's also a very lucrative process. Find out how much they spend on constitutional review under Jonathan. Massive amount of money. It's a money spinner. So that's what they are doing it for. Senators cannot review constitution for Nigeria. They don't qualify to review the constitution. And if they review, that is their problem. I've told you, we are not interested in, we've passed that stage of constitutional review because they've been reviewing this constitution since the last 20 years. What came off of it? Nothing. They have succeeded in inserting into our body politic very draconian laws. We are in at this time in 2020 is battling with the social media law that is they're trying to promulgate. They have a hate speech law that will reinsert into the constitution death penalty for people who are speaking out against the government mostly. So how can you trust your life into the hands of such characters to review your constitution for you? I mean, it doesn't make sense to refer to that process as in any way as valid or credible.
But have you reached out to members of civil society organizations to be a part of this protest?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of them are working and joining on a daily basis. Yes, we are in touch with a lot of civil society groups.
Are we expecting a violence-free procession on the part of the protesters? Because
absolutely, I've engaged in protest. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the police is always on standby looking for a reason to crack down. So my comment is for the leadership of the protest to inform those who are going to be protesting and educating them that on the need to stick to the code of ethics of the protest and not go beyond, beyond what the protest is about, so that it doesn't give the state a reason to kill. Because I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to be using the term kill, but we know what happens in Nigeria when there's a protest,
Yeah, I get your point, but you see, I've engaged in protest for over 30 years now. There's probably no major protest in Nigeria that I was involved in, far-reaching protests in the last 30 years. And it has always been peaceful. See, it's not the protesters that need to be warned. It's the Nigerian government that needs to be warned. They are the ones who perpetrate the violence you are talking about against innocent people. And they are the ones that needs to be warned to stay clear of the people who are protesting peacefully on that day. And also to let our people know that numbers are very important in deciding how police behave in a protest. So instead of doing protests of 10 people, do 10,000. And you see how overwhelmed the police will get. It is in those circumstances that the police will have no option than to join in the protest and even help lead and protect the protesters. But when you do 10-man protests, the police will overwhelm you. So we urge people as an antidote to the madness that may be displayed by security agencies, not the police alone, come out en masse. If 20 million of us come out, we should be able to overwhelm the less than 1 million security forces across the country. All our police, army, civil defense, Boy Scouts, man o' war, all of them, they're not more than 2 million of them. So if all of us, 20 million, can come out, don't even say 20, 2 million people coming across Nigeria, police will be overwhelmed. So the numbers, it's very important that we use numbers. Come out en masse. Come out of your house, don't be afraid. The policemen are also human beings like you. When they see that this is a huge number, as it happened in Mali, before the army took advantage of it, they came out, the president ordered army to crack down on them. When the army saw the sea of heads on the streets of Mali, they had no option than to guide them and join them and even appeal to them. And we also want to appeal to people who may not join the protest to be online protesting with your placard, upload on your Twitter page, your Facebook page. Our parents who may not be willing to join, provide water to protesters, support them in any little way you can. By the time they see that, apart from protesters, that the community also has a support network for them, they will understand that this is not a joke. And that will make them behave appropriately. And it enables then the protesters to continue the protest until we are free.
Have you had people show interest from across the 36 states of the Federation?
Yes, we have seen, I wouldn't say 36. I don't want to exaggerate, but we've seen interest from everywhere. Not only the states, we've seen interest from a lot of layers of society. You know, I have some church youth group reach out to us that they want to organize protests. We had lawyers who have reached out on their own, volunteering to go to any police station. Anybody might be detained immediately after they hear of it. Some female lawyers who have reached out saying they want to protest as well. We've seen all kinds of layers of society. Uh, because they have noticed that there is interest in our protests, even in Maiduguri. The police has announced, the government, federal government announced that they won't allow protests in Maiduguri. But we had people who are interested in Maiduguri, of all places, as you can imagine. So everywhere else that we know.
Before we round up, are there specific information you would need people who will be turning up for the protest to have? Perhaps a bag or water? What is it that you feel like they should carry along? Their mobile
Yeah.
phones and all of that.
Yes, we encourage people to carry mobile phones because you are going to need them not only to capture events, but to call or to reach out to others in cases. So we also encourage people to travel in groups so that nobody is picked up, so that we can have. You might also, government might have operations where people are abducted if they're alone. We encourage people to wear the orange beret or a muffler, a beret or a face cap, something orange to show that there's unity of all the persons doing it. We also have asked that if you are in anywhere in the world where you can help shipping discreetly, nose, this face mask, gas mask, gas mask, and most importantly, body cams. If you have it, you're hearing me and you're outside of the country, if you can ship it secretly to us, you can DM me and we will pick it up, so that we want to make sure that every of these protest group have, like, someone with a body cam or more than one person with a body cam that may not be easily detected in case of police brutality. We can find the police officer and make sure they pay for their crimes if they harass or intimidate or shoot at people indiscriminately. So these are the things, and we also ask people to carry with them milk and water. Milk actually helps you if you are tear gas. Instead of water, milk helps better. I'm talking about plain milk. You can just put, and if it's powder milk, you can just mix it and put it in a plastic bottle. We encourage people not to carry glass cups or glass bottles, because in the course of running away, you might fall on top of it and get caught. You don't want that to happen. We encourage you to wear sneakers instead of shoes or slippers, so that you can just have something that helps you run better if you have to run and out of harm's way. So, but there are other instructions that have been given to each of the groups that are organizing in the states. And also, we encourage people who can make banners or posters independently to make it available to whomever they want to support, or any group. Because we expect this to happen in villages, in towns, and cities across the country and abroad. And wherever you may be, feel free to join in at the embassy of your city of residence. If there's no embassy, there are people who want to meet at the park. Whatever you can do, just make sure you do something on October 1 to change the narrative and the history of this country forever. And most importantly, no matter what happens to me, please go ahead with the protest.
Someone was asking what time the protest starts in Lagos. Are there specific areas where people are supposed to
start as early as starts as early as 7 a.m. in Lagos. 7 a.m. We would release locations where people can gather in Lagos, but that is not also cast in stone. You can organize yourself in different neighborhoods to avoid police cracking down on designated points. You don't have to go to a designated point. You can, wherever you reach up to 50 people, start your protest wherever you might find yourself in Lagos or elsewhere. It doesn't have to, but we will have designated places for that day. And just look at our social media handles for information coming out of this, particularly Revolution Now NG on Twitter. Same for Instagram. And we have Revolution Now Nigeria and Revolution Now _NG is the one on Instagram. And Revolution Now, there's another second handle on Instagram is Revolt Now Nigeria that is being populated as a backup to the first one, because a lot of our handles are being flagged because they are getting frequently reported by those working for the government.
There's a question on the screen. Somebody said, can we send in financial support? Another person is saying that any plan in Ghana for the protests?
Yes, Ghana is being planned on October 1st. Just know that on October 1st, most of the embassies will be closed. But that's not the reason not to protest, you know. It's a symbolic thing to just go to the embassies and protest and let the whole world know that you are there to occupy the embassies. So for financial support, yes. The way it works is that we prefer that people reach out to us through the back end, or you can, when our website is under construction, it should be on tonight. There's a form on the website where you can indicate the kind of services you want to offer to the movement. So if it's financial, you indicate it. If it is writing, if it is social media help, if it's organizing, there's a form on the website. And for your information, the website is undergoing some reconstruction tonight, and it will be back up late in the night, so very first thing tomorrow morning. But for those of you who want to reach me directly, to direct you to where you should be, my email is easy. It's sowore@gmail.com. SOWORE@gmail.com. If I don't respond to you, it's not that I'm ignoring you, it's just because sometimes I can't do it all by myself alone. So, but I try to respond to as many people as possible. And you can also DM me on Instagram, on Twitter, and also on Facebook. Thank you.
And thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you so much, Mercy, for bringing me on your show.
Have a good evening. I want to thank
Victoria Sata, Revolution Now.
Thank you to everybody that joined us, and have a good evening. Please keep safe, and we're going to be following protests as well. Bye-bye.